Hello guys, welcome back to our anime moment. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of Swallowed Star 2 episode number 102 based on novel. So let's start. The Black Fire Demon Lord put away the jade bottle and instructed again. Brother Luohi, you should also know that it is against the rules to take out part of the corpse of the Hunyuan bloodline creature. This matter must be kept confidential. These corpse materials must not be passed out. Don't worry, I will never pass it out. Luo Feng replied. The Black Fire Demon Lord nodded and disappeared. Luo Feng held the cloth bag in his hand. Even without the Black Fire Demon Lord's reminder, he also understood the difficulty of getting this 1/10 corpse out. After all, he had spent more than 100 centuries pushing this matter forward for the ancient kingdom of Flame Wind and the ancient kingdom of Thunder. Although they failed, they also knew the many obstacles involved. The Hunyuan bloodline creatures of this level are guarded by the Emperor and Monarch level. The highest ultimate realm strength, the Hunshan bloodline creatures, said to be guarded by the clones or incarnations of the two great ancestors. They are afraid that those Hunyuan bloodline creatures will escape and cause a great disaster. Luo Feng took a step and traveled through the void, returned to the quiet room, and entered the Star Tower. In one of the layers of the Star Tower, Luo Feng released all the corpses in the bag. Boom tilde tilde tilde. First came the largest half of the hoof. This time, half of the hoof accounted for about half of the corpse material. The hoof was like a towering mountain, and the claws at the root tip were hundreds of millions of centimeters long. There was also a huge tail that was hundreds of millions of centimeters long. These two parts were relatively intact, and the rest were a lot of scales, muscles, bones, a lot of blood, etc. The breath blowing in his face made Luo Feng hold his breath. The body presents 24 life forms. This creature of the origin bloodline. Although it is said to be at the second level of the God King realm, it is estimated to be the top among them. Luo Feng watched, with low intelligence and low realm, it can still exert such strength. Raw tilde 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 tilde. On this corpse, however, a huge phantom condensed invisibly. It was an endless and majestic upright figure, staring at Luo Feng and roaring angrily. Bloodline will. Luo Feng understood. This bloodline will was not the will of the dead Hunyuan bloodline creature. It was the source of this Hunyuan bloodline, the will left by a true Hunyuan life. Even after generations of reproduction and dilution, the will can still be transmitted through the bloodline and has a strong ability to pollute. To walk the Hunyuan bloodline path, you must first be able to resist this pollution. Although this road is full of flaws and disasters, if you step over all the flaws and resist all the disasters, you can still achieve great achievements, such as the Thunder Ancestor. The Thunder Ancestor and the Flame Wind Ancestor had captured the real origin life, and used their blood to reproduce from generation to generation in the origin continent to dilute the blood. Wonderful. Luo Feng ignored this illusory will impact, reached out to touch the scales, looked at the dark yellow hooks on the hooves, and penetrated with his consciousness to explore the inner nature of these substances. During his observation, the matter was immediately magnified 1 billion times, and the most minute structure was quickly checked. Every 10 particles merged with each other, tightly and indivisibly, naturally forming a phase. 240 particles were divided into 24 groups, and the 24 groups of particles entangled and rotated with each other, naturally forming 24 spaces. These 24 spaces were like formations, tightly combined with each other, and constantly rotating. So beautiful. Luo Feng looked at it carefully. Although there were detailed explanations in the two special inheritances, they were just like three-dimensional drawings. When the living material of the 24 life forms was in front of him, the shock was still too strong. Perfect, such a perfect life, the most basic structure of each life contains 24 spaces, and these 24 spaces are extremely tightly combined with each other, just like the combination of a formation. It is extremely difficult to destroy this life structure. Luo Feng knew the horror of this life form just by looking at it. The 10-direction world form can only be regarded as the introduction to the world life form. The 24 phases of the form truly embody some of the horror of the world life form. The path of the world life form is very terrifying, but the special inheritance of the world life form can only be exchanged for the ultimate realm chapter in the infinite space. Luo Feng is able to exert the power of this inheritance because of his invisible and formless ability. However, the invisible and formless ability can only change the matter born in the origin continent. The origin continent cannot breed the God King's ultimate realm substance. If you reach the ultimate state, you will eventually have to change your path. Of course, that's something to consider later. Let's first have the strength to truly fear nothing in the continent of origin. The combination of the 6 major branches of each of the 24 phases is so perfect. Luo Feng was immersed in it and studied it for more than 10,000 days. Suddenly, an idea flashed in his mind, and there was a complete, one-phase form. Emerge naturally. On paper, it's easy to understand. Looking at the real-life materials, I finally broke through the last layer of bottlenecks and realized the first phase of the 24 phases. Luo Feng laughed. Of the 24 phases, the first phase is the most difficult to realize. Because each phase is equally difficult, after the first phase is realized, the subsequent second and third phases will become easier and easier. After realizing the third phase, one phase is equivalent to half of the realization of this life form. I can feel that as long as you put some effort into understanding and studying, you can enter the second level of the God King within 10 centuries. Luo Feng. I feel like this somewhere. Because of his understanding of the first phase, Luo Feng has accumulated too much experience in the integration of the 6 branches. No wonder the inheritance records that the 24-phase form is the highest level of life form that can be theoretically understood in the first level of the God King. But after realizing the 3-phase and 4-phase, one will naturally break through. Luo Feng is in a good mood. It is still difficult to go from the first level of the God King to the second level of the God King. Many God Kings were stuck in the first level and finally chose to practice the chaotic source bloodline. Even if he is as proud as God King Jiao, he has become invincible in the first level of God King without cultivating Han Yuan bloodline. If she wants to reach the second level of the God King on her own, it will be extremely difficult to break through. When I first became the God King, I mastered the 6 major branches of life. The smoothness of my practice is also related to the mastery of all 6 major branches. I have been observing the complete path of the origin of life, and with the guidance of the 2 special inheritances, I have been able to do it in more than 100 years. Touching the second level of the God King, Luo Feng was still very satisfied. Of course, he would not be short-sighted and rush to achieve breakthroughs. Every step of your practice must be done in a down-to-earth manner, and you must constantly hone your own understanding. If we all resort to tricks in the early stage, what will happen if we realize the complete path in the future? Without the reference of the Great Road, what about understanding the Divine King? It will be too late to regret it by then. Compared with the avenue of the origin of life, the accumulation of the avenue of the origin of destruction is much slower. So far, there is no feeling that I can break through to the second level of the God King in a short time. Luo Feng secretly sighed. Although I have taken the 5-color treasure medicine twice, the progress of destruction road has been greatly improved. But the road of life is better than continuing to observe the road, which is always faster. Now that there are 24 phases of life materials for reference, my understanding of the 24 phases will only be smoother. It seems that the second level of the God King should be the first to break through the life path. Luo Feng looked at the huge corpse materials in front of him and thought start collecting some materials. Some scales, muscles, bones, blood, the membrane on the tail, and the shortest hook. The materials collected by Luo Feng accounted for less than 1,000th of all materials. Huh. Luo Feng put aside what he collected, and then began to telepathize. Morosa, come to Xingchen quickly. Ever since the master last said, there will be good news in the near future, Morosa has been in turmoil inside, and he has been waiting for the master's call. Going to the Star Tower? Morosa couldn't help but be overjoyed when he heard the telepathy. If the master summons him normally, he will not summon him to the Star Tower. Morosa was very skillful when he came to the quiet room of the City Lord's palace. When he saw the Star Tower, he entered the Star Tower without any obstacles. Master. As soon as Morosa spoke, he saw the majestic Hunyuan bloodline corpse material next to him, especially the huge hooves and claws, which made Morosa's eyes brighten. Is this? Morosa's voice was trembling with excitement. Swallow it. Swallow it. As a world beast, the instinct is extremely eager to swallow the huge corpse material in front of him. This is about 1/10 of the corpse of a creature with chaotic source bloodline. Luo Feng said, in terms of physical strength, it far exceeds the normal second level of the God King, and even has some characteristics of the ultimate life form. I can feel it. Morosa looked at it and murmured, as long as I swallow it, I will definitely be able to break through. Almost all the treasures I accumulated when I came to the origin continent were spent. I even owed some favors to get this part of the body. Luo Feng smiled and looked at Morosa. I paid too much for you. Luo Feng was joking. The first is to practice for his own 24-phase form. Of course, in essence, 1/10 of the body of this chaotic origin bloodline creature. Luo Feng only took some scraps, mainly giving them to Morosa. Yeah, thank you, Master. Master is so kind to me. Morosa was so greedy and passionate that he couldn't help it anymore. Luo Feng asked, are you sure you will be able to reach the second level of the God King this time? Definitely. I can feel that this part of the corpse material will help me much more than 10 corpses of the second level of the God King. Morosa is very sure. I will probably have accumulated a lot of knowledge in the second level of the God King. Okay, after you break through, I want to see what ability the world beasts in the second level of the God King can be. Luo Feng said, waving his hand, go to your own level of space and slowly absorb and digest it. Huh? The many corpse materials were moved together with Morosa, and moved to Morosa's exclusive area. Layer of space. I am getting closer and closer to the ultimate realm. Morosa looked at the huge corpse material in front of him and immediately opened his mouth. First, countless blood flew into his mouth. Although the will of the blood was roaring, Morosa didn't care at all. He was not fusing the blood, but using the world in his body to devour it and digest it completely. Just as a large amount of blood poured into the body, Morosa felt that the world seemed to be greatly replenished, and the growth rate accelerated rapidly. Luo Feng comprehends the materials of the 24 life forms and can sense Morosa's practice at any time. Morosa swallowed and digested very slowly this time. Luo Feng noticed that Morosa spent more than 100 days first swallowing the blood, and then started to devour the muscles, very carefully and meticulously. After more than 1,000 days, all the bones were devoured. After swallowing all the bits and pieces, Morosa opened his bloody mouth and swallowed all the tails hundreds of millions of kilometers long into the realm in his body. After swallowing this mouthful, Morosa also began to transform. He returned to his true appearance. Snow-white scales began to appear on his body, and his whole body began to bloom with holy light. This holy light seemed to sweep away everything. This invisible aura made Luo Feng's heart tremble. This Morosa has just broken through to the second level of the God King, and his body has naturally evolved. Luo Feng secretly sighed. Practitioners, even if they achieve a breakthrough, still need to understand the corresponding secret method. Just like you have to realize that 24-phase form, and then obtain the 24-phase material, and then cooperate with the invisible and phaseless ability, you can finally transform your physical body. But the world beast is a perfect life form after birth. On the way to growth, it is perfect in all aspects, and it goes straight to the ultimate. Physical method? The law of the field? The method of assassination? All kinds of secret techniques will naturally be mastered when they grow to the corresponding level. After he has completely digested the food, we must compare. Luo Feng was looking forward to it. Huh? This little guy Xinyu also broke through? Luo Feng noticed that the second disciple Xinyu finally broke through to the realm of chaos. Dalha sect, the main hall of the sect headquarters. Luo Feng's named disciples have arrived in the hall one by one. The Dalha sect is a sect established by the overlord of the origin continent. It has been established for a relatively short period of time, only more than 100 years ago. those who are qualified to enter the main hall of the sect headquarters. They were only Luo Feng's direct disciples, named disciples, and 2 elders. Senior brother Xin Yu is really powerful. This retreat has directly transformed him into the realm of chaos. Since the founding of our Dalha sect, we are the first person to break through the chaos realm. The registered disciples are envious and look forward to it, and they also look forward to the day when they will break through. Suddenly, Mo Yu Qingyang, dressed in blue robes, walked in. Big brother. Eldest brother. These named disciples all saluted respectfully. After all, eldest brother is the first disciple of Master. Moreover, he is also the disciple of Elder Rosa, and his status in the sect is unquestionable. Mo Yu Qingyang smiled and nodded, and chatted briefly with his junior brothers and sisters. Eldest brother can still laugh. This time, senior brother Xin Yu has become a chaos realm and is about to become an elder. His status is equivalent to that of Elder Rosa. Practitioners ultimately have to look at their own strength. Senior brother's strength is still a bit lacking. On the surface, these named disciples were enthusiastic and respectful, but they all knew about some changes within the sect, and countless disciples were naturally more convinced of senior brother Xin Yu. Soon, senior brother Xin Yu, dressed in blue, walked in. His sword had completely disappeared, but as an existence in the realm of chaos, he was naturally too powerful at the life level. Senior brother Xin Yu. Senior brother Xin Yu. The named disciples were more sincere and respectful. Second junior brother. Mo Yu Qingyang also smiled and looked at his junior brother with emotion. He had already worked very hard. However, even those who followed the bloodline route could not reach the realm of chaos, and the second junior brother, who was an infinite divine body following the law route, had already reached the realm of chaos. Their talents are very different. Xin Yu also looked at Mo Yu Qingyang and said politely, "Senior brother. Second junior brother, your breakthrough this time is a happy event for the entire Dalha sect." Mo Yu Qingyang said, "Since the establishment of the Dalha sect, the talents trained by the Dalha sect have the first chaos realm." Xin Yu said with a smile, "In the future, there will be more chaos realms in the Dalha sect. I am just taking the first step, and it is not worth mentioning. And with the accumulation of senior brother, I believe that chaos realm will also appear. Not far away. It's still a long way off." Mo Yu Qingyang laughed at himself. 2 of their direct disciples were talking, while the registered disciples were listening. Suddenly, an invisible aura enveloped him. Huh? Mo Yu Qingyang, Xin Yu, and the 10 named disciples all looked up at the main hall. Luo He, dressed in silver robes, was sitting on the throne of the main hall. The person sitting at the bottom on the left side was the original elder. Master. Mo Yu Qingyang and Xin Yu, 2 direct disciples, immediately saluted respectfully. Master. All the named disciples followed suit and saluted. These disciples have gone through hardships to join the Dalha sect. They know very well that there are ancient and terrifying existences in the entire origin continent, and among the many surrounding countries, the Lord of the Sha Kingdom, the Lord of the Yu Kingdom, and the Lord of Luoha City are the 3 pillars. Being able to worship the Lord of Luoha City as his disciple is definitely a blessing. Morosa is practicing in seclusion and couldn't come. Luo Feng looked down and said with a smile, "Xin Yu, you can achieve the realm of chaos in such a short time, which shows how talented you are. From today on, you will also become the elder of my Dalha sect." "Yes." Xin Yu responded. Luo Feng waved his hand. Immediately there was a set of prime-grade chaos realm, weapons and secret treasures, and a cyan jade bottle and a black jade bottle flew out at the same time. "Give you a set of secret treasures, tens of billions of cosmic sand, and 10 treasures to assist in practice," Luo Feng said calmly. Xin Yu looked at the flying treasures. He could feel that each of those weapons and secret treasures was terrifying. Each of them was probably the best among the secret treasures of the Chaos Realm. A complete set would probably cost 2 to 3 billion cosmic sand. There are also 10 auxiliary cultivation treasures. They are all cultivation treasures that are difficult to buy from the outside world. On the contrary, tens of billions of cosmic sand are the most common. Thank you, Master. Xinyu felt at this moment that he had the benefit of worshipping a terrifying overlord. If he were to be given some random points, he would be unable to accumulate them even after long years of struggle. The other disciples were also jealous. Master, you are so generous. Luo Feng didn't think it was much. Like many fringe countries, if you join the Chaos Realm, you can get a Chaos State as a fiefdom. The value of a fiefdom is much more than what Luo Feng gave. Of course, the Chaos State fiefdom relies on the slow flow of water to gain some benefit slowly, and it completely binds the Chaos Realm. Once it is separated, the fiefdom will be returned. Luo Feng's gift is a complete gift. And as the disciples grow and make contributions, more will be given. This is also the reason why practitioners are eager to worship super-powerful people as their teachers. As Luo Feng became stronger, these treasures were no longer worth mentioning to him. Yuan was watching from the sidelines, and he was also the beneficiary. Luo Feng also gave a lot of Hunyuan crystal spirit fruit and even treasures that Luo Feng obtained from some treasure places suitable for practicing in the Chaos Realm to Yuan. For Yuan, Luo Feng is fully committed to supplying it. Because this is the second pillar of the human race. Towards Xinyu, Luo Feng just treated his direct disciples as normal. Naturally, there are differences in the resource supply between the two parties. Moreover, Yuan's talent. Luo Feng can also feel that it is more powerful than Xinyu. Now he has the strength that meets the status of Kuqing of Chaos Realm, the peak strength of Chaos Realm. Yuan, after absorbing some of the inheritance from the Yangfeng Ancient Kingdom's Heritage Hall and blazing his own path, there is no difference between his real body and his illusory clone, and they exert exactly the same strength. It's just that it's so hard to open a path. It turns out that what we are following is not the orthodox, world origin road, but the fusion of illusion and reality. The illusory path was opened by himself, while the real path is the original avenue of the world. The combination of the two is the fusion of illusion and reality. It's too difficult to open a road. Luo Feng glanced at Yuan, who was standing aside. He created the avenue of birth and death by himself, but he has not yet realized the branches of the avenue. Inside the Star Tower. After devouring and absorbing for more than half a century, Morosa absorbed all the essence of the corpse of the creature with chaotic origin bloodline and stopped practicing. Morosa, how do you feel? Luo Feng looked at Morosa in front of him. Morosa looked like his real self at this moment. His whole body was covered with snow-white scales, and the scales on his head even naturally formed the shape of a crown. Morosa stood there, the holy light naturally shining in all directions, and the invisible power was extremely terrifying. I feel very good. Morosa looked at Luo Feng. I feel stronger than you, Master. Ha ha. Luo Feng smiled. It seems you want to be beaten. Master, come on. I don't believe you can beat me. Morosa felt that he was stronger than ever before. The evolution of his body, the natural growth of his soul, and the path of destruction of the origin, made his mind and will continue to grow, and at this moment he had reached the level of God. King's ultimate bottleneck. In every aspect, Morosa felt fearless. Then give it a try. Luo Feng said, and a silver-clad Luo Feng appeared next to him. Boom! Silver-robed Luo Feng turned into a dazzling silver sword light and struck Morosa. Morosa stood there with holy light shining in all directions. As the silver sword light approached, the silver sword light became slower and slower. When he was still about a few feet away from Morosa, the silver sword light completely disappeared. Stagnation. Master, this avatar of yours can't even touch me. Morosa smiled. I'm not the second-level God King with flaws like those of the Lord of the Food Kingdom. I have no shortcomings in all aspects. Domain, energy, physical body, close combat, my clone, I can't break through my realm. Morosa looked at Luo Feng. Interesting. Luo Feng looked at Morosa. Then I will go all out and give it a try. Rumble tilde 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 tilde. Suddenly a behemoth descended from another layer of the Star Tower. It was the extremely majestic silver-clad Luo Feng. This extremely majestic silver-clad Luo Feng has an aura that is no less powerful than Morosa, and at the same time, he still holds an extremely huge blood shadow knife in his hand. This is interesting. Morosa observed the majestic silver-clad Luo Feng and grinned. Come on, I will give you 3 moves first. Morosa was extremely confident. This time he absorbed the creature of chaotic origin bloodline. He has grown quite a bit. He has naturally understood many of the secret methods of the second level of the God King. He just felt that he could deal with his master by using any tricks he wanted. Let me do 3 moves. Luo Feng's body is 1/3 of the world's life forms. Controlling such a body puts a heavy burden on Luo Feng's mind and spirit. However, Luo Feng could still do it just by activating the Blood Shadow Sword Seal. This was Luo Feng's strongest state when he didn't use the Star Tower. Morosa looked at Luo Feng leisurely, standing there and letting Luo Feng make his moves. Boom! Luo Feng came out with his sword. When the sword came out, it was so bright and dazzling that even Morosa felt dazzled. An extremely dazzling sword. It accumulated all the power of Luo Feng, a huge life form in the world, and then completely exploded. The power of this explosion was overwhelming, similar to the feeling of being crushed by the huge stars in Lai Yuan Shu. When he sensed this scene, Morosa had already been tricked. First, invisible force penetrated and eroded Morosa's body. When he realized that he was hit, the mighty and crushing power was already in front of him. There was no way to avoid it. It crushed Morosa's body, and Morosa's body was eroded and cut, strangle, crush, annihilate. All kinds of destructive forces merge into one, destroying this body. The Master is the Master. It's really scary that someone in the first level of the God King can explode with such power. Morosa was crushed into pieces with 90% of his body, but there was still invisible energy gathering, and the blurry figure was saying, "But Master, I am a world beast. You want to kill me with the destruction of the Origin Avenue technique?" In the blink of an eye, Morosa has fully recovered, and the holy light shines in all directions, without any damage. There are 2 more moves. Morosa looked at Luo Feng with a smile. Go on. This video will end here.